So against that background, Diane, I'm going to say welcome to UK Columns News. It's no surprise that your focus is on fear.
Thanks, Brian, and hello, Ben. No, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk a little bit about fear and how the mainstream media and other sources are trying to make us afraid and how they're going to keep us safe, apparently. So let's go back, first of all, let's go through some slides really quickly, just as some reminders and some very current examples of what they're doing. So if we look, for example, at this is from December 4th and 5th, 2021, from the iWeekend newspaper. Everybody probably remembers these kinds of messages. The UK red alert over Omicron's ability to hit the double jabbed. So that color red seems to be something that has been going on. I didn't know viruses, if they exist, are red. But anyway, just from Saturday, from this weekend on Facebook, I saw this from Yorkshire Live. Brits urged to consider wearing masks again as a quademic of 4 viruses surge. On Thursday, the Daily Star said, the next slide, the WHO confirmed an outbreak of a deadly virus that kills half the people it infects. NTD television, I'm not really sure what that is, probably a low-quality source. Cats have been euthanized after testing positive for bird flu. One that I have from just a few weeks ago from here in Edinburgh Evening News, said Edinburgh is in lockdown. So there's that word again, lockdown, as schools and businesses closed due to extreme wind. And we had one day of bad weather, basically. Yesterday, the Scottish Sun said Scots are set for whiteout tomorrow, but the Met Office reveals a brighter days ahead. Just a few snowflakes here over this morning in Edinburgh, nothing that's even sticking to the ground. Here's another one. If you have a snake phobia, please look away, because I know I certainly do. However, this is adding to the fear. The Asclepian snake, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, which can grow up to 2 meters in length. It is Europe's biggest snake. It has established a healthy population in North Wales and in London, potentially living in your attics. So don't go in your attic if you live in those areas. Of course, Keir Starmer took a rapid home HIV test. I'm wondering if this is going to be similar to those lateral flow test kits that they were passing out as rubbish a few years ago. And alongside this, just a day after he took that test and it was all over the news, the UK Health Security Agency published one day later that there is an increase in community testing for HIV in 2023 over 2022. It seemed a bit coincidental to me. So when I was thinking about this, one of the things that I thought about was one of the videos that I watched from the Davos meeting from last month. So these are 4 people in a panel called Scrolling Media's Future, which is talking about how people find information, what information they seek, who consumes news and how. And it's very important to note the 4 speakers that you'll see here. So we have Daniel Roth, who is the editor-in-chief and vice president of content at LinkedIn, which of course is owned by Microsoft. Ben Smith, the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Semaphore, which is a media company. Mina Al-Arabi, the editor-in-chief at The National, and one of our best friends here at UK Column, James Hardings, founder and editor of Tortoise Media. So let's hear the very end of their panel discussion from Davos.
What do you see for the next?
I see the politicization of business, and I see politics turns into something much more transactional, and that is deeply worrying.
Anybody got a more optimistic take?
Can I mean,
yes.
Again, the Arab cynic here says, actually, there's been a real problem in American politics for about at least 2 decades. And I think this is some of it is accelerated. But, Iraq 2003, when the U.S. invaded Iraq, and what the system that they tried to bring into Iraq kind of was a way of legalizing corruption. And when you would argue against American officials who were overseeing this, yeah, but that's how we do it in the U.S. And you're doesn't mean it's right. So I think actually in some ways, people around the world and how they're looking at the U.S. is kind of this feels more transparent than some of the stuff that used to happen and would be packaged in ways, and there are congressional ways to sidestep, actually.
So this is the version of us you always saw?
Kind of politely, yes.
I have a different point of view on this. I think that
Give us the non-viral LinkedIn version.
I think less about the coverage of Trump as a business journalist that is not a massive area of coverage. But I do think that I think you will get people writing about this, but it goes back to this idea that what is going to matter is people who have strong opinions and have brands. And you talked about community, you talked about building podcasts, but there are the building a large community around a non-topic is not going to work. If you can build one around a topic where there's going to be someone who's going to make a lot of money covering Trump in a very hard-hitting way. There are already a lot of people who cover Trump in very glowing ways, and they were making a lot of money. It is a business model that works of having a strong point of view and then reporting it out.
What about trying to be fair and neutral?
That, I think, is going to be harder.
So there we have people from Davos telling us, including Tortoise Media and these other sources, that we can't be neutral, we can't be fair in the media, we have to have some kind of angle. So I looked at Semaphore because it was only briefly mentioned on the UK column, I think just about a year or two ago. Not too much detail, but I got really discouraged when I looked at it because the first story that I saw on Semaphore's website was about ChatGPT. This was from Friday, from Valentine's Day. And it was a story about whether you can have an AI boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever you want to have, AI companions, basically AI replacing a romantic relationship in your life. And I'll have more about that in Extra, by the way. The other thing that I want to talk about as well is predictive programming, which a lot of people are familiar with. We've been seeing news recently, another fear factor, NASA revealing all the countries that could be hit by an incoming asteroid in 2032. Sounding like, if you remember, Armageddon and Deep Impact were examples of two movies. Those were both from 1998 that talked about something that was going to come to hit the Earth and be destructive. But when we actually look at NASA's website about what they're saying about it, they're saying, well, there is something, it has a 2.3% chance of impacting Earth on 22 December 2032. And it might hit a city, but it's certainly not going to destroy the entire planet. And so I want to show what NASA is doing with predictive programming now. They have now the Planetary Defense Coordination Office, and they have created a trailer for a documentary that's coming out in April. Let's watch part of the documentary.
What would an asteroid that is a kilometer in diameter, what would it do if it hit the Earth?
That is likely to end human civilization.
Those objects are big enough to cause what we would call truly global devastation, meaning that they could cause global extinction events. The good news is that we found more than about 95% of them. When we get down to smaller objects, things that are larger than, let's say, about 100 meters across or so, now the picture's not so rosy.
Today, we do not have a complete inventory of all the possible impactors.
There's almost certainly a decent-sized asteroid out there that is going to pose an impact threat to the planet. We're just trying to find it right now.
And that is something that NASA and the worldwide planetary defense community has been endeavoring to do.
There's a huge community of astronomers that start observing it.
From all around the globe, finding asteroids, tracking them, calculating their orbits.
Asteroids don't care about international boundaries.
It doesn't matter where the asteroid impacts. It affects, the entire humanity. In fact, anything alive on the Earth.
I really like that I'm protecting the planet.
Let's say we do find something that poses an impact threat to Earth. What next?
The day is coming when Earth will get impacted.
The dinosaurs went extinct because they didn't have a space program. We do have one.
We can. So why stop there?
We know it will happen. We just don't know when it will happen.
So is that a Steven Spielberg film or is it a government documentary? I'm not quite sure. So if we go back to Spy B and SAGE and all of the government advice that was given back out in 2020 and how it was followed, I just want to remind people that Spy B, which was covered extensively on UK Column, said that a substantial number of people still do not feel sufficiently personally threatened. The perceived level of personal threat needs to be increased among those who are complacent, using hard-hitting emotional messaging. And it was in bold originally. To be effective, this must also empower people by making clear the actions they can take to reduce the threat. So we're definitely talking about putting fear into people's minds. And so here, just to talk about that connection between fear and safety, you all remember these messages from 2020. We're seeing them again. This was all about, wearing a mask to stay safe. This was a photo I took in a shopping center in Glasgow at the time. And to go back to this person called Carl Mannheim, who was the original sort of inventor of social distancing in terms of terminology, who said that it's one of behavior patterns which is essential to the persistence and continuity of an authoritarian civilization, basically saying that this type of distancing can be demonstrated in the case of fear. If I keep a safe space, there's those words again, being safe, between myself and the stranger who is stronger than me, the spatial distance between us there is contained in the mental distance of fear. And that's the academic paper that is from is going to be in the show notes. So I think we're seeing a clear fear campaign. They're going to make us safe, but I'm not sure what they're going to do about this, but that's what I'm seeing right now, Brian.
Diane, thank you very much. Excellent segment. And what do we hope that our audience will be doing is understanding what's happening and warning other people about what is happening, because that is the best way to take the fear factor away. Of course, laughter is also particularly good because we are now into crazy times.